Hello there, welcome back. So I have a very short, very strange video today. So I was thinking, I've been talking about this a lot on stream, I've been thinking about doing a video about rebalances, and talking about each weapon I think, and how I would rebalance them. So I gave it a go, I sat on the wiki and talked, and the video was... It was 2 hours long, basically. I talked for 45 minutes, and then I finished it off, and it was 2 hours long video. I can't release that. That's actually too long for me sitting on the wiki. So instead what I thought was I would take some of the good ideas that I had, and make them into these individual, small, strange videos where I speak to a wall. So the first thing I want to talk about is the Pyro Changes, which I thought would be nice, some quality of life changes, some rebalance changes, and most importantly, I want opinions. I want to hear your opinions on things. Some things I don't have a perfect opinion on, but I have played this class, I've played it in Prem, I've played it in Platinum, I've played it as my second most played class. I've got a lot of experience on this class. I know a lot about it, I've been playing it for a while. So please take that into consideration. While I do main Spy, I have also played Pyro a lot. I played a lot of this class, so I feel like I have some good ideas. Anyway, onwards. The first change idea which I came up with, and I talked about this on the stream, basically is afterburn was changed in the update. It used to be all afterburn was pretty much the same. If you hit them with this or this, it was the same afterburn, so it was all the same colour. One quality of life improvement I would like is that based on the tier of afterburn, it would change colour. What I mean is in the update they made it so a brief lick does not very much afterburn, whereas a sustained stream builds up afterburn additively. What I would like is if an initial afterburn from the weakest weapon, that is the degreaser, would be red. This is a very weak afterburn, it doesn't last for very long at all, and it doesn't do very much damage. So if this, let's say this spy over here, let's say he was red. He was hit by not very much afterburn, so he's red. Let's go up a tier. If we were to use the stock Flamethrower, he'd take a little bit more afterburn. So this would be a nice orange colour. This is a stock weapon. In my head, it makes sense that the stock weapon would be orange, the normal afterburn colour. This would make sense to me. If you were to hit them with, say, the flare gun, which does even more afterburn, I think it should be a yellow colour. We're starting to go up in the damage. The flare gun lasts longer and does more damage, so it being yellow, in my head, makes more sense. Or, obviously, just setting them on fire even longer. It would go from red to orange to yellow, and finally, I think, if you are taking the most maximum amount of afterburn possible, i.e. you've been hit by like a crit, or you've been lit on fire for like 20 seconds, that should be white. I think the ultimate highest damage afterburn, or at least once it hits the threshold, should just be white. I think this would be a good change. I think it would make it very obvious as a medic, oh, you know, I'm a medic, who do I heal? You know, do I heal the scout over there? Do I heal the demo man, or do I heal this demo man? First of all, they're dead, but second of all, as the medic, I'd look at them and think, okay, he's red, so I'll heal him last, he's yellow, so I'll heal him next, and he's white, he's about to die, he's taking a shitload of afterburn. So even though I can't see the damage numbers, I can tell based off of his colour how much afterburn he's taking. So I think that would be a nice change, just very, very simply to make the game easier for everyone, and it would just look cooler as well. Seeing people go around and like, doing a brief lick, only doing red, and then seeing sustained fire slowly changing from red to orange to yellow to white, I think would be a nice change. That brings me on to my second idea. The flare gun used to be, I still think is, a lot of fun. It used to be the case that it would come out very quickly. I think the old degreaser was... Oh, I might get this number wrong. It's around... I think it was around 0.2-ish seconds. Might be 0.25 or something. But it basically used to be able to combo. That was the thing. You comboed it with the degreaser. Then they nerfed the degreaser. It's about 0.35 seconds or something. I might get the numbers wrong, forgive me, but you get the idea. Basically, the flare gun was nerfed by the degreaser being nerfed. A very small change I want is for them to make it so the degreaser pulls out like 20% faster or something. Small change, big impact. The flare gun's fun. I don't think that many people hate the flare gun. This is where I might want your ideas. But I don't think everyone really hates the flare gun. I think it's fun to use. It's skillful to aim at range, for most part. It's very satisfying to use. And then buffing the flare gun without buffing the degreaser, I think would be a nice change for the better of everyone, basically. Just being able to combo again, even with the stock Flamethrower, would make the flare gun amazingly fun, and I would genuinely like using it just way more often. So another fix I would like is the Extinguisher. The Extinguisher used to be immensely strong. If you haven't played for a while, it used to just think of the fire axe that crits on burning targets. That's it. Forget about any switch speed debuffs or anything. It was a fire axe that crit people. You could two-shot heavies, you could one-shot pretty much literally every other class, forgive me. It was very strong, and they nerfed it. They nerfed it so it only did mini crits from the front, and then they nerfed it again, so now it takes like, 4 or 5 years to pull out and put away, and then it swings really slowly. They basically did a super nerf. They did this on the old Natasha, they've done it on a couple of weapons. They basically just made it so it's impossible to use, which I hate. I liked the Extinguisher, I thought it was fun. It was annoying as hell to play against, and it didn't take very much skill to use, but for God's sake, it was fun. So, one change I was like, there's two things, actually. One of which is quite a small change, but just basically set it back to the old one and make it so if you're holding out the extinguisher, you're marked for death. What would this mean? This would mean if I ambushed someone, like this demo, from behind, I run up to him, set him on fire, and hit him, it would be the old extinguisher. It would hit very strong, and it would be no downside. It would mean, however, if there's a bunch of people shooting madly and I run at him and try to pull out my extinguisher and hit him, he'll basically one-shot me because I take loads of damage. It's a strange fix. I think it would make it really good again, and still quite easy to use. So that's why I had an alternate, well, not even me. This was my stream, I believe, that came up with this. The idea was pairing along with the afterburn changes, making it so the extinguisher does damage based off of the afterburn level. What I mean here, the old strat used to be, if you see someone, you lick them for literally like 1 tick, you air blast them, or you ground stall them, and then you kill them when they're stuck against a wall. You didn't die. Well, okay. And that was annoying as hell. You couldn't counter it really, it was just a one-shot and the pyro just had to hit you with a melee and he could just stop you in your tracks with air blast. It was annoying. So what tying it to afterburn damage would mean that comboing with the degreaser with the red afterburn idea, you see where I'm going, would perhaps only do maybe normal axe damage, maybe a bit less, maybe a bit more. This would mean that comboing it with the degreaser very easily wouldn't make that much of a difference. It would just make it the fire axe thing, maybe a little bit worse. If you were to pair it with, say, the stock flamethrower and get the orange flames, perhaps it would do mini crits, or at least a little bit more damage. This would be also the equivalent of getting the degreaser and then lighting them on fire for like another second and then switching to it. This would mean that as someone playing against a pyro, you have a chance, you have like a second or two while he's trying to light you on fire to kill him before he pulls out the extinguisher. Before, he only had to hit you with a flame, so he'd immediately pull it out. Now you have a bit more time to react. And then finally, it would make that if you hit them with a flare gun, the yellow afterburn idea, a skillful thing to do compared to the flamethrower. Not the hardest thing in the world, not the easiest thing in the world, but hitting someone with a flare gun is definitely harder than doing that. So hitting someone with a flare gun would give them more afterburn, and that would perhaps do mini crits or a lot more. Maybe even crits. At this point, I think they should just go straight into the old extinguisher. If you manage to get a flare gun, at that point you have the choice of doing 90 damage at range with a second flare gun, or running up and doing 195. I think that would be okay. Maybe a little bit less, but maybe a little bit more. I think that would be nice. It would mean a skillful pyro would have two ideas. He's got a group of people, so he can light them on fire very briefly and do meh damage, or he can individually aim flares, much better against individual targets, mind you, and do really good. This would mean that Pyro as a crowd control wouldn't be as broken as he was before, with the old extinguisher, and wouldn't be as useless as he is now. And against individual targets, it would be quite similar, depending on how good the Pyro is. A bad Pyro just randomly shoving people into the wall with the degreaser would get very little damage. A good Pyro who can aim the flare gun would get a lot of damage. And finally, the idea is, if you're playing against a heavy, and you get 2 crit flares, or I guess an overhealed soldier as well, you would do white damage, and perhaps get the full crits. I don't know what else they could do really beyond full crits. I think more damage than that is a bit silly, but that would be quite good. I think that's a nice change. It would make the extinguisher fun to use. The downside, I think just doing way less damage against non-burning targets is still okay, but if they want to add on a small damage vulnerability, I think that's alright. The power jack has it, it's not much of an issue, so just giving it like a 20-30% damage vulnerability with it out would also be okay. It would de-incentivize running into whole teams of people and going mad with the extinguisher, and it wouldn't really make much of a change for smart pyros, from behind at least, and it also wouldn't change people in Ubers. So I think that would be a nice rework for the extinguisher. This is an addendum I'm going to add in later to the extinguisher. A small debuff they could make it is so that if you have the extinguisher just equipped, you don't even have to have it out, but if you have the extinguisher equipped, make it so afterburn lasts way less longer. It would be a nerf, but alongside the other extinguisher buffs might make it a bit fairer. It would mean that as the pyro with the extinguisher, you couldn't just do this, run up, and then kill them one at a time. You'd have to hit the person that you've actually lit on fire recently, if you know what I mean. It used to be that you could, I think afterburn lasted 10 seconds. If you lit someone on fire, you had 10 seconds to chase them down. If they made it so you only had, with the max afterburn, like 4 seconds, 2 seconds, even just like 2 seconds would be too low. But the idea of it just having left afterburn duration on it seems like fairly reasonable for the most part. Anyway, the Detonator, I really like the Detonator. I don't mind how it was in the beta, where you could jump super, super high. One thing I don't like is how much damage you take. I personally think it's balanced. I think if you're a very good pyro, you know how to aim your mini crits, you know how to time everything, you can do wonders with this. But I think a very small change that would be appreciated by most people is just make it so you take a little bit less damage on self-immolation. I don't think it would change balance too much. I don't think it would make it objectively the best flare gun, especially if the normal flare gun is buffed the way I wanted it to, with a little bit faster switch speed. I think it would be nice just if you only took like 15 damage from bloody jumping with it. Small change, don't know if it would make a difference, tell me your thoughts. So now I've built it. The gas passer is bad, it's banned in competitive because it goes through walls for some reason, and it's a bit glitchy with maps. Thoughts on a fix is, I think it's personally bad. I wouldn't really mind it if, working with the afterburn changes, someone lit on fire with it, say took immediately, regardless of Flamethrower, the yellow afterburn, the second tier. I think that would be alright. It would make it a very good area of denial tool, because it does take a while to charge, but once it does, the people going in essentially take flare gun afterburn, i.e. the old but slightly better afterburn. I think it would be an alright change, and I think also Neon Annihilator should crit with it. I think most people thought this when the gas passer came out, and for some reason they didn't do it. So just, make it so they're technically wet or whatever, so the Neon Annihilator works with it. That would be a nice change as well. So the Scorched Shot. I don't like playing against this weapon. I think it's very easy to aim. I think it gives you a big bonus, currently, over the other flare guns, just in the case that it's easy to use. At its top level, if you could perfectly aim everything, I don't think it's necessarily the best option, but just the fact that it's so easy to aim annoys me. However, I am biased, so I don't know what to say about this weapon. I want to hear people's thoughts. I think the fact that it made it do mini crits was a bit weird, because you can just hit someone with it, and sometimes they'll land in the mini crit and take shitloads of damage, so the minus 35% damage on it doesn't really matter. I feel like just taking increased damage from it would be okay. I feel like reducing the range on it would be a-okay. But I want to hear people's thoughts on it. I don't think it matters that much. I think it's a bit weird how you can combo the Dragon's Fury to immediately do 75 damage, but whatever. Very, very small thought. I think the Home Wrecker is fine. It's alright. It's very annoying to play against as a spy. I personally hate it. But I think it wouldn't be such a small change to make it so you take way less knockback against minis, and maybe a tiny bit of bullet resistance against sentries with it. If the whole thing is meant to be for removing sappers, it wouldn't be too bad if you could just walk up to a mini without dying and without being knocked back and one-shot it. I think it would be a nice change. I wouldn't mind too much. Alright, so this is the butter on the toast of this video, the Flamethrower stuff. I've argued and I've said more, I've made many words about this weapon, as have other people. Everyone seems to agree that the Flamethrower is better than the old one. Some people seem to think that's a bad thing, some people think it's a good thing. I personally don't mind the max damage. I think the max damage is a-okay. What I don't like is how easy it is to get. Look at these, look, you probably have seen videos with this, but look. Look at the size of those hitboxes. It's not very difficult to aim at all, is it? Not in the slightest. You get a lot of damage for no input. A Pyro with 5 hours can do the same damage as a Prem Pyro near on, maybe a little bit less, by just doing that, basically. I do not like that. I don't mind good Pyros doing that damage. I don't like bad Pyros doing that damage. Small fix, make it so you have to aim the bloody thing, etc. Basically just repeating what everyone else has said, but if you look at it, the box size is set to 12. People have shown this off, I'm just going to quickly repeat it. This is what box size 12 looks like. The thing is very large, like, very, very, very large. This is what box size, like, 1 looks like. Very small. Imagine if you had to individually aim the Flamethrower. Small, weird thing to say. But imagine if a Prem Pyro, perfectly aiming a stream, could do that, but a bad Pyro just doing this couldn't. Imagine the world we'd live in, where good Pyros would be rewarding for aim, and bad Pyros would be punished for not aiming properly. Small thought, big fix. But yeah, just make it so the hitbox is smaller. Then you'd have to actually aim the Flamethrower. Hitboxes would not necessarily match the particles as much, I know that was part of the fix, but come on, for the love of God, just make it so you have to aim the bloody thing. Oh my god. This brings me on to another point. I'm using the flog right now. The flog in competitive is crap. This thing is countered by, well, game sense and teamwork, basically. In sixes, the whole point of Pyro, for the most part, is air blast. This thing has no air blast. It's bad. The damage, you have to build it. People aren't just going to let you build it for free in competitive. In Highlander, it can be good. If you get an Uber, it can be alright. But it's kind of bad. It's just countered by good players. In pubs, it's broken, for the most part. Just because it's just the stock Flamethrower, but as far as a pub is concerned, you can just go and kill everything for free. Small fix. If you've never seen what the lightning gun is from Quake, yes, I'm repeating this, the lightning gun in Quake is a very fast pseudo hit scan. It might actually be hit scan. Direct fire weapon. There's no lag on the particle thing. It's basically just a straight laser beam that you have to individually aim. It's so hard to aim, in fact, that even though by default the damage on is insane, if you find an AFK player with the lightning gun and kill them, you can kill them in like a second or two. It's so good. The fact is that good players seem to get like a 50 to 70% accuracy on it, 70% being obscenely good, more average like 60% accuracy. If they made it so the flog was really hard to aim, like a lightning gun, that would be quite good. It would reward good pyros with an obscene damage output and discourage bad pyros because they can't aim that stream. They have to learn. Maybe they have to use an easier flamethrower first and then work their way up. Maybe they just have to practice with it. I think making the flog something you have to practice with would be a good thing. Also, you know, the idea of maybe making it so you take like 20% more damage or something while you're running around with crits, I don't think it would hurt too much. Might make the flog quite bad, but it would still mean you could ambush people and do shitloads of damage. So, thoughts on that anyway. Okay, so first of all, I can't show the hitbox on this weapon because it's strange for some reason. But if you haven't seen it, it's kind of strange and bugged. You can hit stuff behind you, it goes through players, it's just buggy as hell. As you saw there, I just hit a dude behind me. I say this as it is an important thing. There's a class in this game that's based on being behind other classes. Imagine what would happen if you got one shot as the class being behind that class. You know what I mean, right? It's not nice just running around and seeing a gibbous pyro madly waving around and going behind him, even as like a scout or a spy or whatever, and trying to get him. And then him just killing you from behind. It's silly. Fix that. It's the hitbox just being way too big and coming out, probably out the center of his model, realistically. But it's just, it's absurd. They need to fix that. Make it so it comes out further front. Second of all, the hitbox on this thing is humongous. If you haven't seen it, there's the medic, directly in front of him. That's a hit. That makes sense. Over here, that's also a hit. Does this look like it should hit from that distance? Really? This thing is meant to be difficult to aim variant of the stock flamethrower. But you can hit people from, there we go, that's about the max range like that. That's like basically the player model as difference. Make the hitbox on this thing smaller, make it so it's rewarding. Right now, you can just hit someone with like a scorch shot, run up, and then one-shot them with this weapon. Pretty much. It's very, very good. The stock flamethrower is easier to use, obviously, so most people are using that, but this thing's just buggy. Sometimes it shoots through spawn doors, for some reason. Sometimes it seems to even shoot through very thin walls, I've seen, on rare occasion. Quite hard to repeat, but you can kind of get it done sometimes. It's a bit strange. And also on staircases, it just doesn't work. Like, sometimes if you're shooting a player on a staircase, it won't hit them. Don't ask me. It also used to be bugged. They might have fixed it, but you couldn't hit people around the cart on payload. Strange thing, but this thing's buggy. If they fix all the hitbox issues, that's what it is basically, it's just a hitbox issue. If they fix that, it would be fine. The idea of having a fun, skillful flamethrower that you have to individually aim a small-ish particle on, but get an obscene damage output, makes me happy. I like that. It's like a plasma gun from Quake, but much slower. I like the idea of that. I just wish that the stock flamethrower, you know, there was a reason to use it over the stock. It is very good, but it's just too broken right now. It rewards bad players for missing with a ginormous hitbox. And I don't know how to feel about that. Also, for some reason, it has, like, infinite ammo as far as I'm concerned. Like, you can just shoot this thing forever, and it will pretty much never run out. And the moment you pick up a single ammo pack, you've got, like, another 20 shots in it. Seems very strong to me. Let's talk about the stock flamethrower. Very, very briefly. Air blasting? Questionable. It's quite questionable right now. The hitbox in it, I think, is still quite large, but at least you can't really get people from behind too often. Like, here, I'm air blasting a guy behind me. I have played Spy and been air blasted away from the person I'm about to backstab. Quite strange. I don't know why that is. Maybe they need to move the air blast hitbox just forward, like a little bit. That might be a nice thing. The other thing is reflect jumping. If you don't know what it is, it's when someone shoots a rocket at you. Alright, so that's a reflect jump. Quite hard to do with bot mimic. But basically, it's the case where you reflect jump as pyro. The downside is you take mini crits. I think what they would like to do, didn't used to do that. The case used to be that you'd take an ordinary damage as if, as a soldier, you shot yourself with a normal rocket. Please make it so that, as a pyro, if you reflect something into your face, you take ordinary damage. I don't think you need to take full mini crit damage as the pyro. It just means that, like, if you air blast someone in the face, you take, like, 1 billion damage. I think it's a bit silly. It'd just be nice if reflect jumping was a little bit better, a little bit more rewarding, in the case that you can use it from, like, a normal amount of HP and not have to be at max. Just a small fix. But anyway, that's going to mostly wrap it up for today. I don't really want to go on for too long. It's already gone on for quite a while, but I basically just wanted to cover some thoughts and feelings I had on improving the class a little bit, as well as perhaps generate some positive discussion. There's been a lot of very, very left and very, very right and very top and very bottom opinions. No one really seems to be, agreeing that sides can be mixed. You either join a side or you don't, apparently. I think a middle ground would be nicer, so that's what I'm hoping this video will promote, basically. So give me your thoughts and feelings. What do you think about the small changes to, like, afterburn being color-based, the extinguisher being brought back and based off afterburn damage, the flare gun being pulled out faster, the normal flare gun, that is, and just the other thoughts in general. I think it would be nice to make this class rewarding for good players and do a lot of damage and just be good in general, and discouraging for bad players. Pyro being a noob class, I think, is something that we could probably get rid of. If they make the thing hard to aim and rewarding for those that can aim it, it would be in a much better place and a little bit more viable in some competitive situations. Anyway, that's going to be the video for today. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it's quite a strange video, but please let me know your thoughts. This is meant to generate positive discussion, so if you have nice thoughts or bad thoughts, let me know in the comments, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.
Impressive.